Wow, we've got a really interesting mix of stuff to dive into this time. We've got these groundbreaking discoveries about the universe, some sci-fi concepts that AI dreamed up seriously. They sound like they're straight out of a movie, and even a look at how one musician is using AI to write music for these like fictional worlds. It's like you almost want to tackle like the biggest questions out there, how we understand the universe, how technology is going to shape us, maybe even touch on the whole meaning of life thing.
You've definitely got your finger on the pulse there. It's all about taking these different threads, science, tech, art, and seeing how they all weave together.
Exactly. And there's one thread that really jumped out at me, this recent discovery of a massive, and I mean massive, water reservoir around a distant quasar. We're talking about 140 trillion times.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to wrap your head around the amount of water in all of Earth's oceans combined. I mean, it's mind-boggling. And it makes you think, what does a discovery like this tell us about, like, the very early universe?
Oh, it's huge. This is a game changer when it comes to figuring out what the early universe was like. You see, this water isn't just hanging out anywhere. It's surrounding a quasar, which is basically like a cosmic engine, and it's fueled by a supermassive black hole.
Okay, you lost me a bit of cosmic engine.
Imagine a black hole that's billions of times heavier than our sun. Now picture this black hole with this massive swirling disk of gas and dust that's constantly being pulled in by its gravity. And as all that stuff spirals inwards, it heats up like crazy and releases just insane amounts of energy. That's what makes quasars so bright. They can outshine entire galaxies and act as these beacons from the early universe.
So finding water around this distant quasar, this like relic from the early universe, that's a pretty big deal. It's not just about finding water, it's about where we find it, right?
You got it. And what's really interesting is that water seems to be popping up all over the universe, even in our own little corner of it, our solar system. Think about moons like Europa, Enceladus, or even Titan with these huge methane lakes. They're like these little pockets of potential, maybe even harboring microbial life under the surface.
It's almost like that saying, where there's water, there's a chance for life. It's playing out on this huge cosmic scale. And that actually leads us to this really cool concept from the AI-generated sci-fi stuff you shared. We were talking about water being crucial for life, right? Well, this musician, Simon Carpiers, he took that idea and ran with it. He calls it the Blue HYCEAN concept. And it's basically this vision of water not just being essential for life, but also being the key to things like interstellar travel and communication.
Yeah, that idea has really captured people's imaginations for a long time now, scientists and sci-fi writers alike. This whole idea of using water as a neutrino break, a shield against radiation, or even a way to focus light beams for communication across the stars, it's incredibly fascinating stuff.
Hold on, a neutrino break.
Okay.
Now you have my full attention. Break that one down for me.
So neutrinos are these tiny, almost weightless particles that zip around at close to the speed of light. They're really hard to detect, but they pack a ton of energy. Carpiers' Blue HYCEAN concept is basically saying that if we could figure out how to manipulate water, we might be able to actually slow down these neutrinos, using water as a kind of braking system for interstellar spacecraft. It's still a very theoretical idea, of course, but it shows how science fiction can really get us thinking outside the box.
It's incredible. It's like we're taking something as basic as water and uncovering these hidden powers on a cosmic scale. And you mentioned a radiation shield, too. What's that all about?
Think about the dangers of space travel for humans. One of the biggest challenges is figuring out how to protect astronauts from all that harmful radiation. Water, because it's so dense and great at absorbing radiation, could actually act as a kind of natural shield. Carpiers' vision is to have spacecraft with layers of water or even ice surrounding the areas where the crew lives, protecting them from cosmic rays and other nasty stuff in space. It's like giving astronauts their own little oasis, shielded from the harsh realities of space travel.
It really makes you realize, the elegance of it all, how nature has these solutions that we're just starting to understand. And the scale of it all, the distances, the challenges, it's kind of mind-blowing when you really stop and think about it.
It's definitely awe-inspiring. And that sense of awe is something that Carpiers really captures in his work, especially in his depictions of these hypothetical alien species. Take the Luminara, for instance. Imagine coming across a species that has totally harnessed bioluminescence, not just for communication or self-defense, but as a core part of their being.
It's like something out of a dream. And it's interesting, it ties back to what we were talking about with water. And a lot of Carpiers' art, the Luminara have this ethereal, almost see-through quality, as if they're made of water or some kind of liquid. It's a really cool visual that hints at this interconnectedness of life throughout the universe.
He's playing with this idea of water as a universal solvent, something that's essential for life, and maybe even like consciousness itself. It's a fascinating thought. What if life on other planets found totally different ways to use elements and substances, ways that we can't even begin to grasp?
That is a mind-blowing thought. It's like we're trying to put together this cosmic jigsaw puzzle, but we don't even know what the picture's supposed to look like. We're limited by our own experiences, our understanding of life on Earth. But what if those rules don't apply somewhere else? What if the universe is full of life that just completely changes our definition of what life even is?
And that leads us to another one of Carl Pierce's creations, the xylopods. Picture this. A whole forest of giant sentient trees that can talk to each other through their roots, sharing knowledge and experiences across huge distances. It really makes you think about the lines between individual and collective consciousness. Maybe intelligence can exist in ways we haven't even imagined.
I've always been fascinated by that idea, the hive mind. This collective intelligence that comes from like a bunch of individual minds all linked together. And the xylopods, they're like the perfect example of that. It's like each tree is a single neuron in this massive planet-sized brain, all working together to think, to solve problems, maybe even reach some higher level of awareness.
Exactly. And think about what that could mean for us. Imagine tapping into that network, learning from their ancient wisdom, their perspective on time and existence. It's this exciting possibility that Carl Pierce is exploring. The answers we're looking for might be right in front of us, just hidden in plain sight.
It makes you wonder what other kinds of intelligence are out there, hidden in the vastness of space. It's both exciting and a little bit intimidating, don't you think?
Carl Pierce doesn't shy away from those, let's say, more intense possibilities either. He has this one concept, the lithivores, these creatures that have figured out how to live in the most extreme environments imaginable by literally eating minerals and metals.
Lithivores. So they're like, what, connoisseurs of rocks? Where did that idea come from?
Well, it's actually rooted in real science. Scientists have found these things called extremophiles organisms that thrive in conditions that would kill pretty much anything else. We're talking volcanic vents, deep-sea trenches, even the toxic runoff from mines. These extremophiles are incredibly adaptable, and Carl Pierce just takes that idea to a whole other level with the lithivores.
Okay, you've got my attention. Tell me more about these rock-eating creatures.
Yeah.
How would we even recognize them? What would their world look like?
Picture a desolate, rocky landscape. At first glance, it looks totally lifeless. But under the surface, there's this whole network of tunnels and caverns that are teeming with activity. That's where the lithivores have made their home. Their bodies are built to handle extreme temperatures, pressure, even radiation. Carl Pierce imagines them having these super-powered biochemical processes that let them get their energy and nutrients straight from rocks, like little living mining operations.
It's like they've merged with the planet itself, blurring the line between organic life and geology. It makes you wonder, how can we even begin to have a conversation with something so different from us?
That's where things get really interesting. Carl Pierce delves into this whole concept of biocommunication, suggesting that they might communicate through seismic vibrations, magnetic fields, or even slight changes in Earth's gravity. It'd be a completely alien way of communicating, requiring a whole new way of thinking and understanding.
Wow. It's like trying to have a chat with a mountain range. It really puts things in perspective, how limited our own senses and ways of communicating really are. But it's also pretty exciting. It opens up these incredible possibilities for how life might be communicating across the universe.
Exactly. And that's what makes Carl Pierce's work so captivating. He doesn't just throw out these wild ideas, he grounds them in science, making us question everything we thought we knew about life, intelligence, even reality itself.
You mentioned earlier that Carl Pierce doesn't shy away from the more, let's say, intense possibilities. What did you mean by that? Is there a darker side to his work?
I wouldn't say dark, but he definitely acknowledges the sheer vastness and indifference of the universe. He explores the very real possibility that we might encounter intelligences so far beyond us, so alien in their motivations and desires, that communication might be impossible.
So instead of friendly aliens or wise tree-like beings, we might run into something else entirely.
He has this one AI-generated story about a civilization that exists solely as patterns of energy within a black hole's accretion disk. They experience time in reverse, and their thoughts, their actions, everything is governed by laws of physics we barely understand. Just trying to perceive them could be catastrophic, like a tiny microbe trying to understand how a star works.
Okay, now that is both terrifying and fascinating. It's a good reminder that the universe doesn't owe us easy answers or comfortable truths. And it really makes you think our first encounter with the unknown might not be a friendly handshake, but a glimpse into something we just can't comprehend.
Yet, even with all that, even facing those possibilities, Carpier still seems to find a sense of wonder in it all. Like encountering something truly alien, utterly unknowable, it would be the ultimate validation of our own existence, a testament to the infinite creativity of the universe.
It's like that saying, the universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it's stranger than we can imagine. It's humbling and exhilarating at the same time. But even with all these mind-bending ideas, I notice something that keeps coming up in Carpier's work, this idea of symbiosis, of different life forms, different kinds of intelligence even, working together, for everyone's benefit. It's like he's exploring the power of collaboration on a cosmic scale.
You're spot on. He envisions this future where collaboration, not just between different species, but between entirely different types of intelligence, is crucial for survival, for progress. He calls this interconnected web of being the city.
The city. So is this a literal city or is it more of a metaphor?
It's both. He describes it as this vast, interconnected structure, a fusion of technology and organic life. Inside the city, different species have evolved to fill specific roles, their destinies all intertwined in this complex dance of interdependence.
You mentioned earlier that Carpier's grounds his ideas in, like real science. What's the scientific basis for this city concept?
One example he uses is the solar sailors. They're these beings that travel between the stars using giant solar sails, kind of like how we use solar panels here on Earth to harness the sun's energy. But here's the thing. To sustain their crews and power their ships, the solar sailors have actually formed this symbiotic relationship with algae.
Algae? You mean like the stuff that grows in ponds? How does that even work?
It's a perfect example of biomimicry. The algae are grown in these onboard bioreactors, constantly supplying oxygen and nutrients for the crew. And in return, the ships give the algae the light and protection they need. It's a closed-loop system, this self-sustaining ecosystem just cruising between the stars.
That's incredible. It's like taking inspiration from our own planet.
Yeah.
Where these kinds of symbiotic relationships are everywhere, keeping everything in balance, supporting life. But Carpier's doesn't stop there, right? He brings in these other beings, the algebrands and the architects, who take collaboration to a whole other level.
Exactly. The algebrands are described as these luminous, almost ethereal beings who communicate through, equations and mathematical concepts. They're the keepers of knowledge, the architects of these grand theories and complex calculations.
So they're like what, the ultimate mathematicians? What about the architects? What's their role in all of this?
The architects are the builders, the engineers. Carpier imagines them as these biomechanical entities with these incredible ferromagnetic tentacles that can manipulate matter and energy at a fundamental level. They take the algebrans' abstract ideas and make them real.
Okay, so we've got these brilliant theorists, the algebrands, and we've got these master builders, the architects. But how do they actually communicate? How do they bridge that gap between pure thought and actually creating something physical?
That's where the luminaries come into play. Remember we were talking about bioluminescence earlier? Carpier imagines the luminary as these bioluminescent beings that are in this constant state of change, constantly transforming. They act as go-betweens for the algebrands and the architects, translating between the language of logic, of intuition, of equations, and emotions.
It's like they embody the spark of creativity, the bridge between the mind and the physical world.
Yeah.
And they do all of that with light.
Imagine a symphony of light patterns, pulsating colors, intricate bioluminescent displays. That's how Carpier envisions the luminary communicating these complex ideas and emotions, all conveyed through a language that goes beyond words and numbers.
It's a beautiful concept, these different intelligences working together, each one bringing something unique to the table to create something bigger than themselves. It's like a cosmic orchestra, with every instrument playing its part in a symphony of existence.
And like any orchestra, there's a conductor. Carpier hints at this central hub within the city, a place where the algebrands, the architects, the luminari, they all come together to share their knowledge, solve problems, maybe even tap into a higher level of consciousness. He calls it the nexus convergence.
The nexus convergence. It sounds almost mythical.
He describes it as this chamber with this swirling pool of liquid crystal, a substance that can store and process huge amounts of information. It's through this liquid crystal that the different beings in the city can access this shared consciousness, a library of knowledge and experience collected over eons.
It's like their version of the internet, but on a scale that's just mind-boggling. And the music. What does the AI come up with for this grand meeting of minds?
The soundtrack is both eerie and beautiful, like listening to a star being born or maybe the whisper of a black hole. You can almost hear the hum of quantum energy, the flow of information between all these connected minds, the sheer awe and wonder of beings on the verge of some profound discovery.
It really drives home the point that we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible, both in terms of understanding the universe and our own potential as a species.
That's the beauty of Carpierce's work. He pushes the limits of our imagination, making us consider possibilities we could never have dreamed of on our own. He reminds us that there's always something new to discover, new perspectives to explore, new wonders to uncover.
And as we stand here, at the edge of this new age of discovery, with tools like artificial intelligence at our disposal and the vast canvas of the cosmos stretched out before us, maybe the most important question isn't what, but why?
Why do we explore? Why do we create? Why do we try to make sense of the universe and our place in it all?
Maybe the answer isn't out there in the stars or in some algorithm, but within ourselves. Maybe the greatest discovery we can make is realizing that we're not just watching the universe unfold, we're active participants in its story.
A story that's still being written, and one that we can shape with the choices we make, the actions we take, the things we imagine.
And on that note, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the incredible worlds created by Simon Carpierce. We hope you enjoy the journey as much as we did.
Keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep imagining because, as Carl Sagan said, somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known.